This is the biz.
Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Jay Graham.
I'm Darnell Rivera, and welcome to What's the Biz 559. We're really excited for the guests that we have today. We have Jamaine and Gyralyn Leverett. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, you did.
So before we move on, I just want to tell you a little bit about this couple. They're an amazing couple who are really living in their calling and their dreams and their passions and really rising to the next level. But not only are they a married couple, but they're also business partners in life. And we're here to talk to them about their business, LevLove, and share with you, our listeners, some of the highs, the lows, what it takes to be entrepreneurs in this day and age. And hopefully we'll gain some nuggets, but it also encourage you, the listener, to really live and hopefully expand your horizon and live your dreams. Welcome to you both. We are super excited to have you guys here.
Thank you. Honored to be here.
Good. So before we jump in and talk about what you're up to, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you guys met, came together, how you guys started your business and all the fun stuff.
Do you want his version or mine?
Go ahead.
There's two sides to every story.
Yes. And mine's is right.
I got to correct hers every single time.
Every single time.
Right on.
Well, we are
Right
coming
on.
up on 6 years of marriage. We have two little ones. We have a 3-year-old son, Jaden, and our little mama's, she is 8 months.
Aw.
And we met in church. He stalked me, followed me to church.
Ooh, okay.
Intentionally sat next to me for a turn to your neighbor moment where I noticed his existence.
Wow.
So that's my story, and the rest is history.
Good strategy. Good strategy.
Oh, man.
Now, I would say that's a lie,
But it's not.
but she exaggerated a little bit.
Okay.
Like, I
Right.
wasn't stalking her. Like, stop saying that. Because
Okay.
people actually think you mean I was
Okay,
stalking her.
no, you weren't stalking me, honey. Okay, I take it back.
But no, so I seen her, we used to go to COS. I seen her in a communications class. And I sat behind her, and she wore these really weird, high cheetah print
Not
pink
weird.
boots.
What?
She had these little silly twists. I don't know what attracted me to those twists.
How dare you?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
First
like you know
it's the
how you know
boots.
how like
I know, right?
you know how like you just starting off dreading your hair up
Yeah,
and you put
yeah.
the beeswax
Yes.
in
In the
it
stage,
so
yeah.
it'll lock it up.
It was
That's
growing
what
back.
it was. That's what it was. But half of her head was shaved, so it was weird. The weirdest thing.
But the way he paints the picture, mind you were clearly attracted because you
Okay,
hunted
stop,
me down.
stop.
So, okay.
He was
because-
looking at the boots.
Right, exactly.
Right.
They caught
So-
your attention.
So I was crashing the class and I didn't get to class, and I ended up seeing her. One of my buddies invited me to church because he was dating one of the praise and worship singers at the time, and he didn't want to go by himself, so he invited me. I'm like, okay, cool. I was looking for a church anyways, and then when we get there, I see that she's a part of the praise and worship team, and then I see where she sat, and it was nobody in her row, so I sat like 3 chairs down from her. Just lucky enough, the pastor was like, turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor. And she looked at me and she just got lost in my eyes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it was.
I believe that, too.
Well, that
You believe that?
no offense to me, but it sort of sounded like her story, her version was true.
Right, exactly. And
No.
then I noticed your existence.
And
yeah.
then yeah.
No, both versions are true,
Yes,
but
to
that's
some extent.
basically
To some
how we met.
extent,
Yeah.
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 Well, we're happy. Again, like I said, we're happy you guys are here. So tell us about LevLove. Tell us how that came into fruition.
Well, I was just trying to figure out what to do with our marriage because we were taught you should do more together than you do apart. So I was just praying, and the Lord reminded me of this was around like the 3-year mark. I was just like, Lord, what do we do? And he reminded me of when I was in high school and how I was always the guy who was never settled. Otherwise, I was a cheater. I was always with my friends. They're always in relationships. I'm never in a relationship, so I'm always the third wheel. However, they would come to me for relationship advice.
Wow.
Not just one, but
Don't
both.
do that in your marriage.
Yeah, not just one,
Right.
but both. And so because both came to me, it just felt good. And so I remember, or the Lord brought to my remembrance that moment and just the fulfillment I got from it. And then at the time, I was also working with kids. And while working with those kids, it was just a revelation of like, man, you work with at-risk and high-risk kids. Look at the environment just about all of them have the same dysfunction in the family, and it usually starts with a broken mother and father relationship.
Right.
And so he was like, okay, you want to change generations, this is how you're going to do it. You got a lot of people focusing on the kids. Let's really emphasize the marriages in these communities.
Wow, that's really beautiful. So you had that heart, that passion, and God just kind of put that in you.
Yeah.
That's really
Yeah.
beautiful.
When we were coming up on our 3rd year of marriage, then the Lord just gave us LevLove. It was like, okay, that's your mission. And we both knew, because it was more like, what is the thing that we both share that common passion for? And when the Lord told us, step out on faith and just launch, we did it. We didn't really know exactly what it would all entail.
Yeah.
And along the journey, so much has unfolded
Right.
within that. So, yeah.
And you guys were a young couple that you don't see that often. That does
That
well.
has
That
that-
puts in the effort and the maturity that y'all have. You know what I mean? I really admire that y'all both put in the effort to keep it going, and that's setting a standard for the people. Like don't ever think that the young people ain't watching, man. They're
Right.
watching that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah,
Appreciate it,
because
appreciate it.
because marriage, me being up there in age, marriage, and I can only share what I've witnessed, right, is that people just don't work at things, and there's not a whole lot of support in our community. Sometimes I know there may be support in our houses of faith, with marriage ministry and whatnot, but to have something that you guys are offering to community, not just your house of faith, I think is really a beautiful thing. So in regards to that, like, I know you feel like you were called, it's a ministry, but did you guys, once you guys started going, did you identify like a need in the community, and what did that look like?
Yeah, so as evident as it is, divorce rates are well in the 60 percentile, so every 2 and 3 people are getting divorced.
Yeah.
But even in those statistics is the hidden factor that people who stay together are still dysfunctional.
Toxic
because
relationships.
they aren't tracked, or they're not going to divorce court and finalizing that. Like, there's still dysfunction, and so it shows up in the kids. The kids are the fruit of what's going on, and so in business and the churches, the faith world, like it's no different. Like,
Right.
yeah, we have more foundations in church, but the divorce rates are still high.
Right.
And so it's just a matter of, okay, we're going to stay together because this is our commitment. So anyways, the need that we saw is when we look at our generations that are coming after us, like, what foundation are we laying for them? Because if we don't consider that, we don't consider the idea that we're continuing these cycles. And so
Yeah.
really, kind of to piggyback off what you said, divorce really is just our inability to manage relationships.
Yeah.
That's really what divorce is. And because we're in a culture of consumerism, we learn how to reach for the next best.
Yeah.
Or if there's something that you're doing that I don't like, I can always replace it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I can go and pay for it. Like, I can go and get drunk. I can go and have sex or infidelity, whatever the case may be.
Right.
Like, I can isolate myself from you, stay at work long, and we don't know how to manage relationships. And the reason why it's such a big deal is because it's supposed to be the highest relationship that we have here on earth. And we don't do that.
Yeah.
We put work before it. We put not necessarily our faith, but we put our commitments to our religion before it. And it makes it hard to have such a priority in a relationship and everything else go before it.
Yeah.
And I think what we notice in our community specifically here is that it's founded on relationships. We have hard workers here,
Yeah.
and people are all about business and wealth, but yet they're not stewarding the home life. So they'll be thriving in business, but the relationship is falling apart. And like my husband was saying, a lot of times we'd be like, oh, you've been married 30 years? What's the secret? What have you done? What I'm learning is 30 years doesn't mean success.
No,
and
it
it doesn't
does
mean
not.
healthy.
Right,
You
right.
have people that are 30 years, but they're roommates and there's no love. They're in
Yeah.
a loveless marriage. And so
Living in hell for 30
prison.
years.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Holding on for the kids,
For
and
the
the kids are
kids.
gone, and now what? You know,
Yeah,
a
those
lot of
poor
people are
babies.
divorcing once they become empty nesters as well. But our community is founded on those relationships, and so when we came together, we were like, what's a way that we can impact our community? It's one relationship at a time, and it's going to start in the home life that will affect the kids, and that will affect the community
Right,
as whole.
right.
But for us, we didn't have that. We didn't have that example, and I know a lot of us don't,
Right.
of what that looks like. My mom and dad were actually, they would have been married 40 years, but my dad was like in a whole nother relationship with someone else, and my mom was in a convalescent home and on her sick bed. And of course, he couldn't bring himself to divorce her in that state. And so they were legally married until she actually passed away. But that was my example. So I actually despised it. Was like, if this is what marriage looks like, I don't want it.
Yeah.
And then my husband's parents had been together for like how long before they just got married, like 3 years ago?
Yeah, so
Legally.
they got married 3 years ago, but they were together before I was born, so at least 32 years. And they were predominantly happy. I think my situation is the effects of what happened before my parents got together, because for those of you who don't know, and I know a lot of you don't know out there, I have 21 siblings. And so
I did not know that.
yes,
Wow.
I have 21 siblings. I'm the runt out of all of them. And so because my dad has so many women that he has kids with,
Oh, I
like
see.
it came back to affect him, you know what I'm saying? Like his health, his kids being, so my dad, he's basically bedridden. He's not able to walk. He's not able to do anything. And his relationship with his kids has affected our lives, because I know he wants to have certain relationships and he can't because of everything that happened with the women before. And so, as my wife said, we didn't have those examples. Like my
Yeah.
dad and mom, they were together, but they didn't know how to manage conflict, or they decided to get married way later, and the 3 years they were married weren't the best years of their life.
Right.
So we have this relationship that a lot of people around us look up to, and we're building the foundation as we go.
Yeah, you guys are, it sounds like you guys are still trying to figure it out your own selves, but yet also opening yourselves up to being led by the Lord to help other people in their marriage. And that's pretty amazing. So go ahead.
Before we transition, what's the importance then? So, for instance, you showed the side, like you said, your dad had 21 kids. You hear a lot of talk nowadays about having multiple wives and stuff like that, right? And so, and then,
Or baby mamas.
yeah, or baby moms or whatnot. So you hear a lot of people glorifying that, or curious about it. So what would you say is the importance of marriage in the community? Like, why do we need to get married? Besides the spiritual aspect, like, why do we need to get married and stuff like that, or even include the spiritual aspect too?
Right.
You know?
So marriage in itself, it teaches longevity. It teaches you how to commit to one person. It teaches you how to stick in there through thick and thin. And so even if you want to relate it to business, a lot of times young entrepreneurs get into business and they bail out when things don't go their way,
Yeah.
or they're not willing to stick it out until they start to see the
Persevere.
fruit. You know, because they think 2 years or 3 years or 5 years or 10 years is supposed to happen because I'm like constantly doing it.
Right.
Like, no, you just got to keep it out. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, are you going, like, what's your vision for it? You know, like marriage gives you a vision. Like we get married because it's death do us part, until death do us part. And so if that's the goal, then the time in between that, how do we remain happy? How do we remain fruitful? How do we thrive? How do we build success in whatever area we consider success?
Yeah.
Right.
And so having a foundation of marriage really teaches us longevity and how to commit and how to have the proper attitude with committing to something that's going to challenge who you are in
Yeah.
every aspect.
Yeah.
You know? So,
And I think socially too, I mean, the conversation has shifted in a lot of areas about commitment and partnership. You know, where back in the day marriage was almost, I don't want to say, you had to marry, but it was the thing to do in a sense. And I think now that society has sort of shifted, it's let's just be partners for 50 years and we'll think about it later. I mean, I know people that have been together for over 25, 30 years and they have children, they have a home, and yet there's no urgency to marry and make that solid commitment, right? Yeah. So with that being said, I know you shared a little while ago how that passion developed in you guys, but what was the first initial step that you took to get this business going, and you saw the need and said to yourself, okay, let's take that next step? And what was that step?
I would say it came with prayer, honestly, because I believe that this whole thing, it is a ministry, but it's God birthed.
Right.
So that's the way that we received it. And from there, it was like, okay, how can we strategize? Okay, what is it that we're going to offer? Okay, we have the name. And like I said, we just kind of took it one step at a time, and then it just began to unfold. But the first step, we knew like, okay, we need branding. We reached out to someone to do our branding and marketing and to help us with our mission, our vision, like having it all, our branding colors. Like we had a whole packet created professionally, because our main thing that when we started was like, we wanted to be an excellence. We wanted to be an excellence. We wanted to be organized. So before we push this out, we got to make sure that we're clear on our message. Yeah.
Shout out to Stephanie, by the way.
Yes. Amazing. Yeah. So we did that, and that was, oh goodness, it was a month's process, at least 6 months of just getting clear. Who's our target audience? What are we wanting to relay to the people? And so that was our first initial step. Then we did a launch with our core group of people that have poured and invested into our marriage. And we did a launch party at the Darling Elderwood on the rooftop, and we just kind of treated them and rented it out. And from there, it was really word of mouth that started, moving and kind of getting things going.
To legitimize it, we also went through LegalZoom to get everything situated. And so going through that process, now we can consider ourselves an LLC, a nonprofit. That way, we understand how to run the business, because it's not just a matter. I think understanding how to run a business is the difference between something just being a ministry. Yeah. Because we treat what is ministry as if it's just ministry and not having the legal side of it. And so getting that side of it taught us how to actually run and operate our ministry so we can benefit as many people as possible in the right way.
Right.
So why did you choose? So you're a nonprofit, right?
Right.
So give us some reasons why you chose a nonprofit versus a for-profit business.
So going into it, I chose nonprofit because, to be honest, it was just like a church mindset.
Right.
When you think of for-profit, especially coming into business, starting off, when you think of for-profit and nonprofit, you think of nonprofit being the way to go. But as I got familiar more with what a nonprofit actually is, we want everything to benefit the people. We want everything that we do to go towards the mission that we see. Right. And in order to do this, we're going to need people to invest in us, and we need partnerships throughout the community, because without networking, without partnerships, we know we can't do it on our own. We need word of mouth. We need people to come alongside us to help push the vision, because there's different aspects or whatever in that sense. So that's kind of the reason why we chose nonprofit.
Yeah, that's good. No.
That's very good. Very good. So you're talking to your marketing people. You're trying to figure out your brand. You're doing all that. Was there any time during that course before launch that you kind of had some doubt and fear? Because I know as humans, we can have the backing of the Lord, but still, because we are humans, and one of our, I think insecurities, about ourselves, are we doing the right thing? Tell me about a time, possibly, if any fear or doubt came in, and how did you overcome that?
You want to go on that one, honey?
Yeah.
So I think one of the reasons why fear is so crippling is because we don't identify between fear and anxiety. they stem, like the feelings, the
Are the same,
stress,
yeah.
they stem from the same place.
Right.
But when we think of it as anxiety, which is how we should think of it, it's more of an anticipation. Like we anticipate the social rejection or whatever the case may be to not move forward, whether that's just something from the past or whether that's like, man, am I going to get on stage to be rejected? So I would say for me, not necessarily a doubt, but one of my anxieties is speaking in front of kids. Because kids don't have filters.
Exactly. They're so honest.
Yeah, like
They're
adults.
so honest.
They are brutally honest.
Adults have their, they have their poker faces, but they
Right.
still got their thoughts in their mind.
Right.
They can
Right,
compose
right.
themselves. If a kid isn't interested in what you're
That is
saying,
so true.
like they will sit there and just spin around in a circle, play with their
Right.
shoelaces, and then you know for sure,
Yeah.
like
Or
they're
shout
not-
out, "Oh, you look
Right.
funny."
yeah,
They're
exactly.
just so. Oh gosh, yeah.
So to me, that's a big anxiety for me.
Yeah.
Because I want to deliver, and you have to speak in kid language, and I'm used to speaking in adult. As long as I've been working with kids, I know how to speak adult language, and so going down to a middle school level or a high school level, I don't want to be rejected. But also, when I think of like where so I'll just share this. This is a free nugget about myself. One of my biggest things is I hate being embarrassed. And so in high school, I was embarrassed quite a bit. And so when I'm going back to middle school or going back to high school, those are familiar feelings that are drawn out because like I don't want to be embarrassed in front of this group of kids.
Right.
And so the way that I've overcome that, and my wife probably can attest to this as well, is to figure out where that stems from. And then honestly just do it.
Or work through it.
Do it
Literally,
afraid.
because it's not going to change.
Yeah.
Like you still might get embarrassed. Like the
Right.
kids might talk about you. Oh, like your voice sounds stupid or
Yeah.
you're ugly. Like it's not going to stop them.
Yeah.
But it's just knowing that that's going to happen and then working through that. Because the more
Right.
you do it, the more you get confident, the more you're not worried about it. And I
Right.
actually had a mentor who told me, well, it really comes with age.
Yeah.
The older you get, the less you care.
Yeah, but I think that's a story somebody made up a long time ago, and old people adapt it.
Yeah.
I have an 80-year-old mother, and oh Lord. But going back to what you said about the fear and acknowledging it, I think I have a life transformation coaching business that I do as well, and I find that a lot of my clients will recognize where the fear came from, but they don't want to acknowledge it. And I think once you acknowledge where it came from and really look at it, I think that's where your breakthrough kind of happens. So there's a book that I read a long time ago called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And those are the things that I think that drive us. It's like I'm fearful, and I will acknowledge that when I do public speaking, when I have to present at work or anything like that, I will literally acknowledge and talk to myself and say, my first thing is pray, Lord, help me, give me the words these people need to hear. Yeah. 2, this anxiousness in my body is fear, but I'm going to give it to you, knowing that as I step out on this stage, you're going to speak through me and the listeners are going to receive. Yeah. And every time, in some miraculous way, Darnell gets tossed aside, and then there's times where I look back and I watch myself, and I'm like, who was that? Oh my God. But feeling the fear and doing it anyway causes breakthrough. And I think going back to what you said a little while ago, and I don't want to fill up too much time, but when you say how people will take on the desire to have their own business, but then they realize it's so much dang work. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I did not realize how much work this was going to be. So you live through your doubts, you manage your fears, you manage your anxiety, and you do it anyway.
Yeah.
So with that being said, again, I mean, how do you like support him in that, or how do you guys support each other when you guys are kind of like, well, babe, I don't know quite, how do you guys manage that type of partnership and conversations in your relationships?
He's usually a lot more confident than I am, and he's like, do it anyway.
Yeah.
And of course I'm going to do it, but I'm going to be very anxious about it. Yeah. So especially when it comes to speaking, I'm not one to be out in the forefront at all. And so literally we just had this actually happen. The last date night that we did, we were speaking and we were going to be sharing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. So he takes me to the side and we usually will grab hands and we'll pray.
Nice.
Exactly what you just said that you do. And we'll give that to the Lord. But another thing I want to go back, because you were asking about the doubt and the fear.
Yeah.
Of course, there's going to be, when you're starting any business, there's a fear of failure. There's a fear of the unknown, of what's going to happen,
Right.
of how the people will respond to what it is that you're putting out there. And again, yes, do it afraid, because I think we were more focused on the why we were doing it and keeping that in front of us and the impact that we wanted to make, that the doubts were very minimal in that moment. Really, I experienced the fears when I have to speak in front of people and do certain things like that. But another thing that we practice is affirmation. Not only affirming one another, but we do affirmations on a daily. And I think that helps to build the confidence in who we are, who we want to be. So I think that's huge too. Also,
I think you brought up a good point too, knowing why you're doing it. Because if you jump into business and your why is weak, you'll quit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
and a lot of times people have a why that is based off of them. Like, I want this, or I want to achieve that, or I want to do this great thing.
Yeah.
But when it stops there, you'll also be the reason your business stops, because it's not, man, generations are counting on me. Like for me to be my best, there's so many people dependent on that. Or, man, like, if I step outside of my comfort zone and speak to this one person and pour into this one person, then their life will be changed, which will change their kids' lives, or change, you know what I'm saying? So it'll keep going, and your why has to be strong enough for why you get into it. That's why you have to, keep your why in the forefront.
Yeah, keep it alive and breathe into it, because you're going out and you're touching marriages, and these people are going home to babies, and so you're making a big difference in the lives of a lot of people. That's really beautiful.
And I'm sorry, let me just throw this out there. And they have to constantly see their why every day.
Yeah.
Because if you don't see your why every day, it's basically like getting distracted from what's important.
Yeah.
You have a focus, but if you have stuff in front of you, or if your house is a mess or whatever, I don't know about y'all, but when my house is a mess, because we have our 3-year-old kid, when we clean up, he just takes everything back out.
Right back out.
Like, when you're frustrated and you have to step over a mess and you're like, oh my gosh, like, you're distracted now and now you can't focus. So just getting reprogrammed every morning, like, why am I doing this? Okay, like, I want to provide for my family, or I want to change the lives and make the world a better place. Whatever your reason is, like, it keeps you motivated and keeps you energized to do what you want to do.
So speaking of that, I know your business is faith-based, but what keeps you guys inspired to keep doing this?
Oh man, do you want to go? Or, 'cause I can.
I think it's just that. Honestly, it's the generations. I think not having that and seeing the impact that it made on my life and how it impacted from a childhood into my adolescence, and even some of those fears that I still struggle with, that I've been able to identify where they stem from. I think that's what inspires me. First, of course, I want to impact my own kids before I can go and impact anybody else. So, and I was telling my husband this today when we were talking, I think also in being that we are co-founders in this business, it has raised the standard for us, because we don't want to just talk about it, right? Like, we want to be about it. We got to be about it. We want to be that example. And so it has caused us to also level up in that. But I think solely is just understanding that this is our calling, and it's our purpose and it's our mission, and knowing that one married couple, if we can affect and impact one married couple, then that generation is, you know what I mean? Yeah. We can change a generation and those that are coming behind us. But another thing is, we hear a lot when it comes to like other marriage ministries or other marriage businesses, where they tend to really talk about the problem. Maybe it's restoration. Maybe you need repair in your marriage. Maybe you've been cheated on, or infidelity. They tend to address those issues in marriage. Hardly ever before marriage and now do you hear people saying, you can thrive in marriage. You can be happy.
Oh,
you
yeah.
can be successful.
Oh, yeah.
Marriage is wonderful. Like, no one's talking about that.
Right. You know, I had a conversation with one of my clients not too long ago who's struggling in her marriage. And she says, well, you know what they say, marriage is hard, marriage is hard, marriage is hard. And I said, you know, sweetie, I said, I learned a long time ago in Sunday school that we speak as oracles of God. I said, why don't you change your conversation? I go, because you keep affirming marriage is hard, relationship is hard. I said, what would your marriage look like if you spoke over it and said, marriage is love, it's ease, it's
Yes,
grace,
yes.
it's good communication,
Walk in it.
it's, you know, and just speak those things and breathe life into that.
Yes.
And she got it. She really, really got it. But I know, you know, relationships aren't easy. I understand that. However, if you have a mindset that is in alignment with what you want in your relationship, I think you got to live in it. You
Yes.
know what I'm saying? And speak it.
Yeah, that's
and like
really
you said,
good.
be about it.
I heard something that it was really, really good. So she was saying marriage, people say that marriage is work. Marriage is work. I don't view marriage as work. And I don't
Yeah.
say that marriage is work because if you keep saying that, that's how you're going to view it.
That's
Like
how-
you're
yeah.
showing up to a job like, okay, this is a task I have to get done. This is a duty I have to do
Yes.
because it's work.
Yeah.
Is marriage hard? Yes.
Yeah.
We know that marriage is not perfect.
It takes something.
Yeah,
It takes something.
It is for
Yeah.
sure. You're gonna have to work at it. But again, like I think people are more so wanting to handle things. Basically, our ministry is to prevent things, give you the tools, equip you with the tools you need to have a
Yeah.
thriving marriage, so that you don't have to get to divorce court and realize that we could have did this to make it work.
Right, right. So you've built your business, you've launched, you're having your events and things like that. From all that you're experiencing right now, I'm going to ask you this in a really simple way. Your biggest learning experience from all that. I mean, I know sometimes in life is training and development in all areas, and I'm sure you're still learning a lot of things, but
Yes.
do you recall like that first time where you said, well, this is a learning experience?
Yeah, I would say for me, when it comes to business, you have to, and I actually heard this, but it rings true because I think my hardest moments are when like I'm tired. Like you have to stay energized for it because if it's a long run, you got to find ways to refuel yourself.
Yeah.
Like because if you are reaching for if you're running a mile and you stop at half a mile, you know, like you need to be able to finish. How do you prepare yourself to finish? And so learning how to stay energized. So for me, like I prep myself in the morning because I know like if I'm gonna show up with my family, like I need to have my mind prepped for that. Like I do things that are gonna energize me. I spend time with the Lord, and then I spend time with, you know, motivational speakers, you know, who pour into my life. So now like I have the energy refueled up to spend time with them. And I've already done I get up at 3:00 in the morning in order for me to get my stuff done.
I'm asleep.
I have to. And so from 3 to 9, like I've taken care of like all the things that I need to do to provide self-care.
Yeah.
And now I can show up. And I would say the other thing is like a lot of times like we wish for it, we're hopeful. And I think we get hope and faith confused half of the time because we say we have faith for something, but yet we sit on our hands and we expect it to walk towards us.
Or fall out of the
right.
sky.
Yeah. So instead of having faith or hope for it or wishing for it, like learning how to work.
Yeah.
Like we don't know how to work for something. And a lot of times, and I think in our case, which is why we're pioneering this for us and for our kids, is we didn't have the example set for us in marriage.
Yeah.
So learning how to create that system, but also staying true to the process, like we're working for and creating a blueprint for and even in our business, like we don't have any connections with anybody who's doing what we do.
Yeah.
And so we're building it all together.
Yeah.
And so I would say those are basically the top two things. But I also think along with energize, you got to find a way to stay motivated through disciplining yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and so like making like simple choices day in, day out really would help not only you in business, but it'll help you as far as a person who you want to be, and it'll also help you in your marriage too.
Yeah.
I have something that I want to add. What, you're going to laugh at this one. I'm extra sauce. And so one thing we've learned about with working together is just identifying and recognizing and appreciating each other's strengths.
Yeah.
So that has been something with working together. But I handle like setting up the date nights, because we do put on date nights for the community. And I handle like the whole, just everything that goes into that. And he usually allows me to do full range. One learning experience has been not having a budget.
Ooh.
Not having a budget for these date nights.
That's
we knew
big.
coming
Yeah.
into this business that it's an investment, right? Whenever
Right.
you're getting a business started, you have to invest. But we made our date nights affordable for the community because we wanted you to be able to come out. So that's not a bad thing. But my extra sauce, we were spending thousands per date. So we were always in the red. And it wasn't until my husband got this great idea to let's put on a gala and it'd be like this fundraising event so the community can partner with us, because we're putting on these date nights for the community that's going to impact the community.
Yeah.
And so this is the first year that we had that, where we had other people partnering with us,
Where we didn't have to come out of pocket.
where we didn't have to come out of pocket to put on these date nights. And so I think not having a budget for the date nights and me
That's-
just running wild with my creativity.
But that's wisdom, that's really, really, really beautiful. So what is one thing that you won't compromise in your business?
I don't think we'll compromise quality. Even with working within a budget, finding a way to remain excellent in what we do, because
Absolutely.
we believe that what we present is we're presenting an offering to the Lord, and we want to present an offering of excellence.
Right.
So everything we do, we want to make sure that not only are we integrous, but we do it to where it's excellent, and that it speaks of, man, like they did a good job. Like, this is fire. The food was good. Like
Yeah.
we want those type of reactions, because we want that to speak of what we're giving back to God.
Yeah.
And so that's what we won't compromise.
Well, I think you guys are doing that because every couple I know that have attended your events have always raved about it. So kudos to you
Thank
guys.
you.
Praise
Thank you.
God.
Definitely. So as entrepreneurs, how have you two grown in your relationship? Being partners in, I don't want to say partners in crime, but partners in love.
Yes. Yeah, I think patience with one another. Again, just realizing that we are partners in this. There was a time where he would be coming up with these ideas and he would share things and I would be like, no, like what? And I would shut him down before he can even get them out. And I had to realize that he's a visionary and he needs to be able, and I mean, as the head, obviously, of me as his wife, but also in our business. And he runs with the vision. He has these great ideas. And a lot of times I'm a realist. So I'm like, but look at this. And every time he executes, and it's like, okay, honey, you did good. Like, I'm going to trust you more in that area.
But it sounds like you guys bring a balance to each other.
Yes. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I would also say, how can I word it? We learned how to, along those lines, we learned how to allow each other to influence one another. Like
That's good, honey.
letting my wife speak into my super far ideas, of trying to bring it back down, allowing her to influence me in that way, and allowing me to, like, okay, like, I see what you're saying. This is the vision. Like, we need to get there. Like being able to influence one another has allowed us to give each other grace and not be so quick to, because, as you, like, the more time you spend with somebody, the more you about to jump and finish their sentence.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so instead of doing that, it allows me to give her time to finish. So it shows her respect in a sense. But I think another way that it allowed, that this has kind of worked on us is allowing us to really compromise. Because it's really hard as a couple working in the same business, especially when you want it to be excellent, when you think your way is the best way and when she thinks her way is the best way, it's really hard to find compromise. And so I would say a recent example of that is like we recently created our Thriving Together program, which incorporates our Built to Thrive blueprint. which helps couples get the relationship they want so they can live the life they deserve.
Yeah.
And so coming up with the curriculum for that, we were bumping heads so much because I know I'm right. Like, I know if they follow my
Wait a
steps,
minute.
Right on,
Wait
right
a
on.
minute.
Right on.
yeah, like I know if we follow my steps, we're gonna get you to where you want to be. Like you want to thrive in your relationship,
Yeah.
trust me, I got it. And so she's giving her input, and at that moment, it's like, okay, well, if you want to allow your wife a say so, if you want to allow your wife to maintain her identity as a person and feel valued and feel like she's being seen, you have to give her room to speak into, because you're not the only right person.
Yeah.
And you're not the only smart person. Like your wife is just as capable, if not more, than what you have. So allow her to speak
It's called
into it.
equal contribution.
Yes, exactly. And I think it strengthened our communication in that
Yeah.
too, in that area of just like communicating with all aspects of the business. Because he would like go and set up these meetings and do things. I'm like, you didn't even tell me about that. So now I think it's helped us. He'll be like, oh, honey, we're sharing on Google Calendar. Okay, we got to do this. We got to do
Nice.
that concerning the business. So I think it's helped us to communicate too.
Yes, it has.
Did it take you a while to like see that? Like, for instance, you said in the beginning you were kind of like, yeah, or whatever. So, you know, that happened with me too. You know what I mean? So we see something, we react on it, and sometimes if our other doesn't jump on board right away, what do? We make it happen, right? So it's like, okay, this is what we got to do to make it happen. But then when you realize, like, oh yeah, that is. Sometimes it's hard for us to click it back in because we got your initial reaction. So sometimes it's hard for us to be like, okay, you are interested in it. You know what I mean? So, you know, and a lot of times women, y'all have this thing where y'all
Watch it.
you see,
Be careful
Be
now.
soft.
Speak that truth, brother.
right on,
Speak
right
that
on,
truth.
right? Yeah, yo, you know, we've got to read your minds. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, it was that before, but now it's this, and you should have known that. You know.
Okay, I'll tell you what has been one of the greatest lessons. This is a nugget for the women for sure, is to allow your partner the room to fail. And so even if it's an idea where I don't necessarily think it's the best idea and he's like gun-ho, like this is it, okay, we're going to do it your way. And in the end, I'm not going to say, oh, I told you so, or I was right, or nothing like that.
That's
But
key.
just allow him that room to fail, because that's why men aren't stepping up and leading, because we shooting them down and beating them
Man,
down with
tear
our
'em
words
down.
and
Soon as
not
something don't
building them
work.
up.
I believe that.
Yeah.
I believe that.
100%.
And just as like you talked about him being your covering, there's a sense that a woman holds where you're kind of like, and I might get some bad feedback for this, but you're kind of the gatekeeper in a sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not just the queen of the castle. The queen is a very strategic and keen and can discern things.
Yes.
And, you
Yes,
know,
ma'am.
and then so when men do fail, which is very rare.
There is no failure. though.
I think you was right. Rarely fail. You're right.
But what I'm saying, as a woman and as a partner, and you like you said, okay, baby, you got it right, you go for it. But inside you're like, but you don't say nothing. But when there's failure, the way you breathe life back into that relationship, I think, is really super, super important. Because I'm sure starting off in your business and getting things going, like you said, there were some experiences that maybe weren't all that great, but you managed somehow to, you know, kind of regroup and say, okay, we learned a lesson here, training and development in all areas of
Yes.
life, right?
Yes.
But first of all, there is no failure in
Oh,
business.
geez.
Only learning.
Only
That's what we
learning.
don't.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So you got to have the vision.
Yes.
you dig?
Okay.
But I will say this though. I will say this, and it just like confirmed the study that was done. So there was a study of like couples who or marriages who have been together for like decades, at least 2 decades and more. And the number one thing that they mentioned that kept them together was respect.
Yes.
Respecting one another.
So important.
And so I know we often talk about respect and we talk about it loosely and we talk about, you know, like, why don't you just respect me? You know, like, and this is for, I'm going to speak to the ladies on this, single ladies, married ladies, whichever ladies. One of the reasons why the man in your life or the man that you want or the man that you've been together with for however long doesn't feel capable to be the man is because he lacks confidence, and that's because you tear at his confidence by disrespecting him.
Right.
And because you don't know how he feels respected, and this going back to communication, like because you don't know how he feels respected as a man, he doesn't have the confidence, and you wonder why he won't step up and lead, or many men won't step up and lead. Shout out to 50. I know that was a reference for you, one of the old heads, you know, just not being able to step up for that, because I was a pretty confident person before I got married, but my confidence went to a whole nother level after I got married. Yeah. I would say my confidence was probably at a 5 or 6. Now it's at like a 7 or 8 because of my wife allowing me to make my own choices and be confident in that without giving me backlash, without giving me, why would you do that? Like, why would you even consider that? Like, that sounds so, like, when, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's part of the reason why I see in my life, a lot of women fail at relationships.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's always attached to your own upbringing and how maybe you might have seen how mama talked to daddy, or, you know, how boyfriends, you know, and things like that. I totally get that. But I think it's breathing life into it, you know, and breathing life into your man, because you're the closest thing. Mm-hmm. You're the closest thing to her. She's the closest thing to you. And if you guys can't communicate on a level with a high level of respect, and not pretend you're respecting each other, because that's what you're supposed to do, but really mean it from deep down in the heart, I think that's beautiful, and something that I'm blessed to know that you guys hold in your business too as well.
And there's so much power in that too, because a lot of times we get
a lot of women power.
Yeah, well, no, but this is the truth though. Like, you know, we see this power thing, and you got people fighting for the power of physical strength, right? Mm-hmm. And you're not realizing the power that you have as a woman. Like, look at the story of Samson and Delilah. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, a lot of times we overlook that. She took down the biggest dude.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The baddest dude, and she took him down by whispering in his ear. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So you have the ability to build that person. They asked Michelle Obama if she would have married her ex-boyfriend. I don't know. I guess he was somebody or whatever, right? And so she was like, well, if I would have married him, he would have been the president.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
That part,
so,
Michelle.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it really, Donny Hathaway had a song said, I'm only flesh and blood, but I can be anything you demand. I could be king of the world or a tiny grain of sand.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's, you know what I'm saying? They have the
It is
power to
true.
build that man up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And yeah, that's a superpower. But like how you said, we developed a culture where it's tear down. Oh, you don't need no man. You don't, all this stuff like that.
Yeah.
You want to
see.
You want to see a king in your marriage, in your relationship, then speak that thing into existence. That's
Help
the word
him, help
too.
him to rise.
Help him to rise to that occasion. And I mean, I can compliment him in different areas, even though I'm not seeing it. Right? I'm speaking it as though, oh, honey, the way you did this, oh, you did so good. I appreciate, or whatever. Mm-hmm. He's going to be conscious of that and then rise to the occasion of that which I am speaking. So, yeah, it's definitely life or death is in the power of the tongue. You can build up or you can tear down. And it's important because especially as Black men that's being torn down by everybody else in the world, when they come home, it should be a safe space and environment for them to know that they are loved and to be able to speak into them and to build them up and to speak life before we send them back out there, you know? So I think that's really, really important.
Yep. Grab his face and speak those affirmations. Over him, right?
Yeah. You are smart. You are kind. You are important.
Listen, the last time she touched my face like that, we had a kid. So.
Then I take it back because we done.
Okay, we're not doing that. So what qualities do you think entrepreneurs should possess?
I think to be a great entrepreneur, you need to have clarity. And by clarity, I mean you need to have a vision. I think without a vision, you'll constantly spin your wheels and you'll get tired and burn out.
Yeah.
So I think clarity is first, but then I also think you need toughness. And what I mean by toughness is perseverance. Like you have to be able to press through good times, bad times.
That tenacity,
impossible seeming times, you know, because when you go through it, the vision is what's going to keep you driving. Your why is what's going to keep you going.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to press through it. Like, I think if you have those two things, I think all the other stuff will just come and make it all worthwhile.
And I think too many times, even as entrepreneurs, we have like so many things, right? Especially visionaries, men, so many great ideas and so many different things. But I think if you get clear and you have, make the main thing that you're focusing on,
Right.
then you'll hit every time. Without goals, you're not going to accomplish anything. So making measurable goals, and then make the main thing, and knowing your audience, your target audience, who it is that you are speaking to.
So speaking of goals, where do you guys see your business in, let's say, 3 to 5 years from now?
All right, I'm glad you asked. I was waiting on this question all day.
I'm ready.
Nah, but I would say in 5 years, we will be traveling the country speaking, not only for marriages, but also at high schools and middle schools and colleges, just teaching people how to have healthy relationships. Because just relationships in general could really help you. If you learn how to set the foundation for how to have healthy relationships, it'll also teach you how to have a healthy marriage.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have boundaries, if you treat people toxic, you're not gonna change in marriage. Like, it's gonna be the same thing. So even starting to expose kids to different things, different ways of thinking, different thought patterns than the environment they grew up in will really help kind of interrupt some of that toxicity that we talked about earlier. So seeing that, and also I would say 5 years, we'll be a 6 or 7 figure business.
I believe that.
Yeah.
I totally believe that.
We also want to write a book. We want to put on a marriage conference, and we want to do marriage retreats where we put them on like out of the country, just for couples to experience different areas of the world, different beauties and wonders of the world. That's another thing too that we have on our list within 3 to 5 years.
That's beautiful.
And also contributing to that, let you guys know that we used our cards. You know what I mean? We went on trips and stuff.
Okay.
And when we was riding down to LA, we went on a little business trip. And we was just going through the cards, man, and it really opened up a lot of good conversation. I don't know if you guys put it out there yet or when the release date is for it or anything. I just wanted to kind of put that out there.
He's talking about our conversation cards, and they are called Let's Talk About It. And I know we blessed them with one set of them, our first edition. We do have those. We haven't started marketing it yet, but we have them to market. That's something that we're currently working on as well. But we created our first edition of conversation starter cards. It had been in the works, I think, since we started. It was one of our goals, which was cool to see, honey. I was looking at our goals list today, and it was actually something that we actually did to behold that. But the reason why we came up with that is because in couples and marriages, you evolve, right?
Yeah.
So what you liked 6 years ago may be different from today, and too many times we think or assume that we know them, or maybe there's areas that we never even tapped into. You'd be surprised conversations couples aren't even having about sex, about finances. Let's go back to where it started. What did your parents think about finances? What did they teach you? So it's just a lot of different questions that we created. It's like 144 cards to be able to have those conversations. Me and my husband have used them. They've been a great addition to us. Like when we go out on dates or we go to dinner, we'll pull them out, and we ain't sitting there staring at each other or the phone, just wondering what to talk about. It just opens conversation and gets things going. So yeah, that is definitely something as well that we have coming soon.
I want to kind of piggyback on that, and I'm gonna use your space to talk about this.
Talk about it.
I had one gentleman come up to me and ask like why do you put on date nights? Like, what's the point? And one of the foundations of every thriving marriage is a solid friendship.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we put on date nights to enhance friendship.
Right.
The way that you enhance your friendship is you get to know your partner's internal world. And there's a turning towards. And what I mean by that is, like, whenever your partner bids for your attention, you give it to them. Like, you don't turn away, or if your spouse says like, "Oh my gosh, honey, look at that rabbit run across the field." Like, you don't just be like, "Yeah, whatever. Like, ain't no snake there to eat it, so I don't care." You know what I'm saying? Like, You don't
Yeah,
say that.
yeah.
Like, you give them your attention, and going on date nights helps you fall in like with each other more.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah, and so when you fall in like more, when you like your spouse more, it makes, when you do have those tough conversations, when you feel out of love or you don't feel like the love is there, the friendship is strong enough to where it's going to soften the blows of conflict. So instead of waiting until you get into conflict, we're doing something to build into your positive sentiment override, and we can explain that later. But it pours into that to help you, like, okay, I know who you are. This isn't you. So
Right.
we'll come back when we physiologically soothe in 20 minutes and try this again, because this ain't you. Versus taking it personal, and now you're on defense mode and you're
Yeah.
attacking again. So our
Right.
date nights is a preventative measure for when you get into conflict. That's why we have date nights, to build your friendship.
And another thing, when it comes to our date nights, it was something that a lot of couples were like, man, we really enjoyed this. For one, let's just be real, it's not a lot to do here outside of dinner and the movies for couples in our valley.
Yeah.
But we try to get creative and think outside the box to bring something that you're not seeing or you can't do here. And a lot of couples were saying, like, man, our schedules are so busy. We have work, we have the kids. We're not finding time for each other's. We make it easy. You just show up,
Just
you
show
know what I
up.
mean? And it's all planned and put on for you. So we got a lot of good feedback of couples who hadn't gone on dates in years, just
Yeah.
being able to enjoy one another and come out. And so that's another reason why we started doing that. That's kind of, that's what we started out with as our niche in our business, was the community date nights that we put on, for sure.
Yeah, and going back to what you said about, you get to know each other. A friend of mine, she was married to her husband 15 years and didn't know he spoke 2 other languages. So just, you were talking about your date nights. What kind of audience can you be single? Partners? Do you have to be married to attend your date nights? Tell me what that looks like.
It's open to everybody. All you have to be is together.
Together.
We do
Okay.
dating, engaged, married, interested, wanting to see if you even want to like them. No matter whatever it is, we open our date nights to everybody.
That's nice. That's nice. That's really cool. Not a lot of faith-based organizations are, I shouldn't say that, but maybe they're not open quite to that, But
Right.
that's really beautiful to see that you expand into community.
Yeah, so one of the things we do is we want to offer clean fun. I know
Yeah.
we've had several couples come to us like, man, like, we appreciate your date nights, man. Because without it, man, we probably, like, we don't want to go to the club. Like, we don't want to be seen in
Yeah.
that environment, because it's not really us.
Right.
We want to, we don't have to be wasted to have fun. And so that's one thing we promote, that you can have fun in these environments and, just be surrounded by other couples who are just having fun as well.
Yeah. That's good. That's fun. So what would you say to the listener who's thinking about starting a business?
Do it. Do it afraid.
Do it afraid.
No, I would definitely say just do it, because you don't know who that business is going to impact. Whether it's profit, nonprofit, you will create jobs for people. You'll put people in positions to impact other people. Feed their kids. Like, you don't know who's on the receiving end of what you do.
Yeah.
But I'll actually, I guess, finish with this. In the Bible, in Proverbs chapter 11, it says, those who refresh others will be refreshed themselves. And, like, keep your why in mind. Like, you going out, starting this business, blessing other couples, like, yeah, you'll have rough moments, but you'll also be refreshed in the end. You'll get what you need if you just keep going and stay the course.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
But
I
you
think-
got to be a good steward, too.
Yes, and I think just having a genuine care for the people, it has to be bigger than just you. And so in doing that, I agree, honey, you'll be refreshed. And it ain't going to be easy, of course.
Yeah.
Anything, it's going to take an investment, it's going to take work, but be willing to persevere under that and just keep the vision in front of you of why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah. But the beautiful thing also, too, is at the end of the day, just knowing you're making a difference in the lives of people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can lay down perfectly in sweet peace just knowing that.
Yes, it's rewarding for
Yeah.
sure.
And I had a question. How do you, like, the young women, how do you even talk to them about, like, how do they deal with all the things that they're dealing with and still want to even attempt to get married with all, from social media to OnlyFans to all these different opportunities that they have, how can you even get through to them to even see the value in
themselves.
going this way, in this type of world? Because you see a lot of men are losing in the sense of not even able to compete. You have a mass majority of your DMs, your everything going crazy or whatever. So it's more power to you guys. I don't even understand how you can even focus in that.
Yeah, I will say.
That's a big question.
Yeah,
wow.
It is. I'm gonna try to piece it together. So a lot of women come to me for marriage advice, or single women come to me because they admire the marriage that we have. And what did you do? And what did you read? And I will say that I prepared for marriage before getting married. And this is the advice that I give single women, and for any single women that's listening. In the Bible, in Proverbs, it says that a wife does good to her husband all the days of her life. You are a wife before you say I do. And when you know who you are, and you seek to be healed, and in terms of being whole, you're not coming to someone broken, because you're going to attract what you are. And if you are broken and there's areas or trauma or past things that you haven't dealt with that you're bringing to the table, you're going to attract that. Another thing is there's a lot of counterfeits out there sliding in your DMs. But to be prayerful, to be discerning about what it is. And again, just with entrepreneurship, you want to be clear about what it is that you want. What are you looking for in a spouse? What do you want? But as women, a lot of us have that list, right? Of, okay, he got to have this, that, but we don't bring nothing to the table.
Nothing to the table.
What are you doing? How are you preparing? What do you bring to the table? And so that's the advice that I give them. Know who you are, know what you don't have to settle, but you're going to attract who you are. So who are you becoming in the process? And to carry yourself as such, to carry yourself as a wife. I read books on marriage. I was very clear on what marriage was, studied out the vows and what that meant, considered the worst case scenarios, because I said that I'm only doing this once.
Yes.
But I will add on that. She didn't think I was her husband when we first met.
Absolutely.
I wasn't her husband until there was a life switch for me. I'm not saying I was like, out here just living completely reckless.
He was out here living reckless. Yes, you was.
No, I wasn't.
Yes, you was. But the caliber of woman I was, I said, you ain't him.
Yeah.
Okay, stop putting all that on it. You ain't got to do all that.
But
We're going to go ahead and take a little break. No,
right?
But no, so she knew who she wanted, and she wasn't going to settle for that.
That's powerful.
And so I would say my encouragement to anybody who's looking to be married or looking to have longevity, know, as my wife said, know who you want, but you also need to protect your mind.
Right.
Like the reason a lot of these relationships fail is because you see what you want on social media, or you subscribe to, I don't even know how it works, but you subscribe to an OnlyFans page, and like you see all those people, and that's what you strive for, because that's who's in your mind. Like when you think of like relationships, you think of the person who has the money or whatever the case may be, like all the faulty stuff. Yeah. But you don't have like the good examples.
Yes.
And so you don't think that it's worth it because your examples all fail. Well, of course they're going to fail because they're built on money. They're built on like external material stuff. Mm-hmm. So you have to be able to protect your mind. If you don't know how to even prep or how to even go about that, my wife and I created a Built to Thrive blueprint just for you.
That's awesome.
Shameless plug.
Yes,
Plug it.
But seriously, you have to be able to guard your mind and start feeding your mind what you want. Like if you want to be successful in business, you're not going to surround yourself with people who are broke. If you do, then you're not going to be wealthy or be successful in business.
Yeah.
So you have to start surrounding yourself with people who have what you want. And the first way to do that, same mindset. And you have to be able to stay focused on that. My wife mentioned it earlier, but just to clarify it, like you have to stay focused, remove distractions. Mm-hmm. If you want to be married, like stop looking at people who twerking. men.
Exactly.
Like, that's
Tell
not
them,
going to help.
Tell them.
Exactly.
Not going to help.
Get off OnlyFans. I don't even know what that is, but I could just only imagine. Get off of there because then
Well-
you have this fantasy about what this person should be or what they should look like.
Well, Lena, I will tell you that I'm your only fan.
Honey, I love you. You're so sweet. But he left out the best part. And when I met him, for one, I was doing 6 months, just me and the Lord, right? I had committed to the process in preparation for marriage. And so when he met me, I was like, I got 2 more months. I'm not even about to talk to you. So in that, when we did start talking and getting to know each other, I did say that he wasn't the one, but he was always so sure. A man knows what he wants, ladies, and he goes after
Facts.
it. If you questioning it, I don't know. He just say we talking and you not sure. He don't want you. He not feeling you like that because a man knows what he wants. But to this day, my husband has been one of the greatest transformations that I have got to witness in 1 year. Not married because I let the Lord work on him first. But in 1 year, I watched him become a completely different person than the man I said, no, you're not my husband. It took some time for me to come around to the idea of marriage. Our journey is pretty wild, but he persevered, long suffering. He calls it.
You're right. And
But he pursued me.
Go ahead. Tell that side, but also tell the other side. Go ahead.
We ain't got enough time. He pursued me. He pursued me, and he very consistent and faithfully. He did pursue me for 4 years before we started dating, and once the Lord showed me that. But my point was the transformation that took place. Like he said, he wasn't the man. I knew, like, no, you're not the man that I'm waiting for. But he became that, and it goes back to that building up. I didn't even have to build him up. The Lord did it. During that year, but he was a completely different person. And I thought it was one of the most beautiful things.
I'll say this. She couldn't see herself with me at first, but once the transformation happened, she couldn't see herself without me.
That's beautiful.
And so if you can see yourself without the person, you might want to reconsider if that's the person for you or not. Because if you don't have that that conviction that, man, this is my guy.
Yeah.
Like, man, I can't see myself without her. Then you might want to start looking at some other people because you're not sold out yet.
You ain't
You're not
sold out.
You're going to have all kind of people getting divorces, man.
I know. Wait, hold on. Not in your marriage. Don't be looking nowhere else. Hold on now. Let's be clear.
LevLove said.
This was for the single people.
Yes, for the
I want to
single
clarify
people.
that. There you go.
Yes. Don't you dare be looking for nobody else in your
And
marriage.
so for the people that are married, you need to take your course and work on it if you're in that
Yes.
position, right?
Right.
Blueprint,
Right.
Built to Thrive blueprint that we offer, and it's a coaching 6 months, and we take you through that on where you're stuck in your relationship and helping you get to a point of thriving. So we meet once a week and talk and coaching. We also offer premarital counseling for anyone that's considering marriage. We have an assessment. It's awesome. That's over the course of 6 weeks, and you really just get to know each other. It's really mind-blowing.
Awesome.
I do want to emphasize the fact that we really believe that you can thrive,
Yes.
not just in marriage, but in life.
Yeah.
And what we do through our program is we really help you develop the mindset to maintain a thriving lifestyle.
Yeah.
That's what our system does. Our system gives you the blueprint that you can simply follow to, okay, like, this is where I'm stuck. This is where I want to be. Okay, like, they gave me a system to get there.
Yeah.
And you can do it in every aspect of your life. We really focus on marriage. That's our focus. But you can literally apply this to every area of your life.
Yeah, that's good.
That's beautiful.
And that's such a big piece of the puzzle for a strong community, is marriage, man. I haven't really realized it until I got older and started really understanding, like, especially becoming a businessman, you really start understanding, because you touched on it earlier when you said it's the commitment.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If Joe Schmo comes in from out of town and doesn't have no kids, isn't married, there's nothing to show any kind of commitment in a man's life.
Mm-hmm.
He can come in here, mess up everything I got, then take off.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Don't
Yeah,
know
but
nothing about this man. There's no kind of anything tagged along with it. There's
Right.
nothing to show any kind of anything to it, And but then when you see that ring, it's like, oh, okay. this person has a family. Then you see the family dynamics. They're happy. They're this. They're that. Oh, okay, this is a good man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can judge a lot by that, just by seeing that, the way that family structure is and stuff like that. You know.
But even when you think about it, commitment is attractive. When you think about people who are
Yeah.
successful, there's a testament of commitment.
Yeah.
Like, have you noticed a lot of people, a lot of people run into these situations where they're married, but somebody who was single found a way to creep in. That single person is attracted to commitment.
Yes.
Yeah,
Even if the marriage or the person who stepped outside of the marriage isn't committed, the person who sees the ring, they see a symbol of commitment, and it's
Right.
more attractive.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying? So being committed to whatever endeavor it is that you want to take on in business, it will attract more people. This is why longevity is so key, because if you want people to invest, you obviously have your values that you believe in, but if you commit to it, people will see your commitment.
Yeah.
You know, people will see that you're committed to changing the world or whatever the case may be. Maybe it's not on a global scale or whatever the case may be, but like being committed, like that's attractive.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people who aren't committed, I don't know, like they're going to attract not committed people.
Right.
But even
right.
the not committed people aren't going to be that attracted to you because,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
Honest.
I sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think when you're committed to your family, to your partner, your spouse, your children, there's something very empowering about that, right? But if you have no other why, and like he said, someone can come along and take everything you have because they don't have a big why, right? Their agenda is just to get in where they fit in and do that. So, and I know we're time here, but how do you guys protect that in your relationship?
Ooh, in our
I
marriage.
would say first off, we remain vulnerable with one another. Excuse me. I would say, like, just sharing with her my, I'll give an example. So, for those of you who don't know, like, I'm in school to be a licensed therapist.
Yeah.
And so I had a class where we were doing role plays. And so I was talking with role playing with one of my classmates, and we were talking about dysfunction, or not dysfunctions, but like I forgot what it was. But anyways, so we were role playing. I was being the therapist, and what the person was role playing, the type of person, what they were role playing, it was along the lines of my temptation. So for me, like my wife, she said I was no good, basically, like in layman terms.
Use a dog.
Yeah. So coming from that type of environment, there's places I can't be. Like I can't go clubbing. As faithful as I am, that's too temptatious for me.
Yeah.
And so clubbing, and then as a therapist, one of the things you want to have is empathy. You want to be able to put yourself in that person's shoes to understand how their view of the world makes sense to them.
Right.
And by doing that, it was a line that I was teeter-tottering because it was empathy, and the story that the person shared or the role play that the person came up with, it made me imagine what it would be like instead of putting myself in that person's shoes. And so it was like, man, like I still got some work to do. So sharing that with my wife is a way to keep our marriage safe because I don't keep any secrets. And so by being vulnerable with her, I protect our marriage because now I don't have anything to keep from her.
Yeah.
And I guess that ties into communication, like just sharing, those hard things. It actually draws us more closer. You know, the more that I don't share with her, it kind of pulls us apart because now I'm just building up a wall between us because I'm holding stuff from you. You know, even if it's something is like, I ain't gonna lie, honey, I went to Save Mart, boy, she had a fatty. Listen.
But that's real talk, though.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, you're human, right?
And it also, but I understand that, like, people who just get together or people who, like, are in their newlywed phases, like, they want to put on their best face. So that's a
Right.
conversation they're not going to have. So it does come with a sense of maturity.
Of course.
But once you get to that point and you feel safe with your spouse to share those things, that's where you can start to jump over in your intimacy. Because sharing those things, like, it just, okay, I know what my husband like.
Yeah.
Like, I might not got a super big butt, but he's honest, so I can trust him. So
Yeah.
when he does tell me yes or no about other things, okay. Like, he told me he looked at this or whatever the case
Yeah.
may be, so I can trust him.
I think vulnerability is beautiful in all relationships. I think that's really amazing.
Yeah, I think allowing the space for him to be vulnerable and not being offended by those things is really a reflection of the confidence we have in our marriage and what we have. And I think that is attributed to date nights, making sure that we stay connected.
Yeah.
We have weekly date nights that we go on. I think it's doing check-ins. How are you doing mentally? How are you doing emotionally? How are you doing physically? How can I serve you today? I think that keeps us connected, communicating every day. We do dinner debriefs and just to keep in contact with what's going on in each other's worlds. I would also attribute it to, oh my gosh, I just went blank with what I was going to say. Goodness, I forgot.
No, that's
Well,
really
I guess
good.
it wasn't meant to be said. But yeah, I think all of those things help us to really safeguard
Stay
our marriage.
connected.
Oh, and when it comes to anything that would even oppose as a threat to our marriage, I am quick to shut it down. Like, anybody try to slide in my DM or try to like something, I'm like, being honest and open, talking and communicating, I will block you or whatever the case may be, because this is my first ministry. It's a covenant. It's something
Sacred.
It's my first sacred. It's
Yep.
my first priority. And so nothing will come against that, and
I
we're
would
really
say
one in this.
There's also things that we don't do. Like, one of our agreements is that we won't ride alone with another female, whether it's work.
Boundaries.
Like, we have boundaries that protect our marriage. We
Yeah,
don't just
yeah.
have boundaries, or not boundaries, but we just don't have like principles and pillars within our marriage. We also have pillars that protect our marriage too.
Yes.
Right.
And that,
And I bet your business too, because it's sort of in alignment altogether, because your marriage is the pivotal reason why that purpose is there.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, that's
yeah.
Yeah, I totally believe in guardianship over all areas of life that are precious and sacred.
yes.
I was taught that years ago, and I have adapted that in all my relationships. You
Yeah.
hold guardianship because every relationship is sacred. So you're holding guardianship over marriage people. You're holding sacredness over the expectation that you want their relationship to evolve
Yes.
into.
Yeah.
So with that being said, where can people find you guys?
You can find us on Instagram at LevLove, L3VLOVE, and you can go to our website at www.levlove.org.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And we have some upcoming events. We have a next level couples retreat. It's going to be September 22nd and 23rd. And it's going to be with Seven Sycamores, the wedding venue. They have us as speakers. So we've partnered with them. That's going to be really good. And then we're putting on our line dancing date night. It's going to be
wow.
October
fun.
14th. Yeah, that was requested. So we're excited.
Yeah, so just in September,
amazing.
our next level marriage retreat, in order to take your marriage to the next level, you have to build a solid foundation, and we're going to show you how to build that foundation at the retreat.
Yes.
That's wonderful. Well, we'll definitely have all that information listed once we get this posted. But I just want to say what a privilege it was to sit down with you guys and just hear about your life, hear about your journey. And who would have thought you sitting 3 seats down, we would have been here today, right?
I did.
There you go.
Strategic.
God did.
There you go.
Right.
It's all about
Yeah.
purpose, right? But thank you again.
Thanks
and
for
thank
having
you,
us.
What's the Biz 559 listeners. Today was a really great day. So thank you for sharing. Go ahead, Jay, take us out.
Yeah, that was great, man. You guys are great. Role models to the community. Keep it up.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you guys coming by for sure. Are y'all selling the merch also?
Yes, you can find it on our website,
Okay.
levlove.org.
Yeah, some tight gear, and you got to give me a sweater and a shirt.
Yes,
Yeah, for sure.
Not a sweater right now, but for the winter.
No, for the winter
Eventually.
time. For the
Yeah,
winter
for the
time.
winter time.
For sure.
Yeah.
Thank y'all for having us.
Yes,
Yeah, for
seriously,
sure,
it was
for
an honor.
sure.
Thank you.
Yes, and that was it. That's it. We thank y'all for tuning in. We'll have all the stuff posted in the notes. And signing out. Peace.